Hello, this is Lou Dolphin here for Sentinels of the Multiverse Weekly One-Shot number 60. It belongs in a museum. The up-and-coming researcher Dr. Andrew U. Bismarck has made an important new discovery at a major archaeological site. A special squad of heroes are dispatched from the Freedom Tower to prevent the powerful artifact from falling into the wrong hands. This one-shot requires Mini-Pack 2, Infernal Relics, and Vengeance. Interesting. Misinformation! Oh my goodness gracious, we haven't seen you in a long time. Not since one-shot number 3, Rescue Under the Sea. And we also, that one also featured quotes, Rescue Under the Sea. This one's, it belongs in a museum. And it features misinformation against Parse. I believe that's Prime Wardens Fanatic, and K.N.Y.F.E in the Tomb of Anubis. Interesting. While misinformation and Parse are nemesis, and Parse has a lot of deck manipulation in her deck, which is very powerful against villains, but especially so against misinformation, for reasons that I'll probably discuss once we read her character card. But misinformation is one of the notoriously hated villains because of sort of the randomness of whether she flips or when she flips, and being able to kill her after she's flipped, and the card destruction she has on her front side, which usually means that you don't really want to play cards because they'll get destroyed, but then she has cards that make you discard cards, so lots of terrible things in her deck. Let's just see how this goes. You? Why are you looking at me that way? I'm just an innocent assistant. You are an innocent assistant in the same way that I am a simple programmer, misinformation. Alrighty. This is a fixed start game. And Parse starts with a Gauge, Impossible Shot, Recompile, and Updated Intel. Prime Wardens Fanatic starts with a Chastise, Embolden, Prayer of Desperation, and Smite the Transgressor. And K.N.Y.F.E starts with Energy Burn, For the Greater Good, Incidental Contact, and Overdo It. It's a 3-hero game, interestingly, which actually makes misinformation a slightly easier. Villain, Demure Office Worker. By the way, she has no HP on this side. She's not even a target on this side. What? Setup. At the start of the game, misinformation enters play, Demure Office Worker side up. Cards are revealed from the top of the villain deck until one diversion card is revealed and put into play. Other revealed cards are returned to the villain deck, which is shuffled. Gameplay. At the start of the villain turn, if there are 2 or more clue cards in play, misinformation flips. At the end of the villain turn, X hero ongoing or equipment cards are destroyed, where X equals the number of diversion cards in play. So, on this side, she's just an innocent worker. Like, we don't even know that she's the bad guy. You know, just thematically, you know, we're being fed bad info. Basically, we have misinformation. And there are a bunch of diversions out there. I think there are a total of 5 diversion cards in her deck, and the diversions are distracting us from figuring out exactly what is going on. Why is there, like, mayhem, sabotage, etc. Well, we're trying to figure out who the bad guy is, which requires clues. And with 3 heroes, we need 2 clues. We need H-1 clues in general, which is why 3 heroes is slightly easier because we only need 2 clues. With 5 heroes, we need 4 clues, and it takes a while to get those clues out. It's actually sort of like possible that you can play a game of misinformation that goes like 30 rounds and you still don't have any clues in play, just because she has a card that searches for diversions and then shuffles her trash into her deck, which means, you know, whatever progress you've made to her clue cards get erased. But anyway, you need 2 or more clue cards in order for her to flip, and when she flips, now you know she's the bad guy. 45 HP, Villain Revealed Saboteur. Gameplay. At the start of the villain turn, a clue card is destroyed. If this occurs, each hero target deals itself 2 sonic damage. The first time a hero target deals damage to misinformation each turn, she deals that target 1 psychic damage. At the end of the villain turn, misinformation deals the 1 hero targets with the lowest HP 2 psychic damage each. Again, this is why it's easier with fewer heroes, because whenever you hit her, she retaliates. That retaliation with 3 heroes is just 1 psychic damage. So you're more easily inclined to hit her because it's only 1 damage, versus 5 heroes, it becomes 3 damage. And at the end of the villain turn, she's only hitting the single hero target with the lowest HP for 2 psychic, versus 5 heroes where she hits the 3 hero targets with the lowest for 2 psychic. So not only does it take longer for her to flip, which means that it's likely you've taken a lot of damage by that point, but once she does flip, she hits really hard. But with 3 heroes, it's not too bad. Alright, so the goal of this game is to get her to flip, so we need to get 2 clues in play. And once she has successfully flipped, we have to defeat her. She only has 45 HP, which isn't that much, although she does retaliate once you hit her the first time each turn. So let's just see how this goes. Explosion in the lab is the reveal diversion. At the end of the villain turn, each player with 3 or more cards in play must destroy one of their cards. At the start of the villain turn, one player may discard their hand to destroy this card. So this is especially rough. Explosion in the lab is a card that, I mean, like when you start the game with it, you know, it becomes like the price to destroy it becomes more and more. Because you have to discard your hand to destroy a card, which, like, early on in the game, you're sort of just trying to see what you have and trying to get set up. This card stops you from really getting set up because your character card actually counts as 1 card. So 3 or more cards in play really means if you have 2 or more ongoing equipment, mechanical golems, constructs, whatever cards in play, you have to destroy one of them. And the Sentinels is especially bad because each Sentinel counts as 1 card. So the Sentinels start with 4 cards in play. You don't destroy a character card though, thankfully, but other than that, you know, it's hard to get set up with Explosion in the lab because you can't really get 2 set up. And the only way of destroying this card, since it's a diversion, it's not an ongoing card, the only way of destroying it is by the text on the card, discarding your hand at the start of the villain turn. So it's likely that we might want to destroy it right away. So the question is, do we want to destroy it? Because there are clues that actually reveal diversions from the trash, which sucks. I think it's, what is it? Insider knowledge. At the start of the villain turn, move a diversion card from the villain trash into play. So, like, we could try to destroy it right away, but she could end up getting it back, which would be sad. So I guess the question is, do we have cards that we don't mind discarding? Like, Parse's Gauge is one of those deck manipulation cards. We probably want that, especially with misinformation on the cover here, just because it allows us to filter through her deck a little bit more. Look at the top card of a deck, and then we could put it on the bottom if it's not a card we want. Fanatic, I mean, these aren't particularly exciting cards. Embolden is always nice, but if it's going to just get destroyed, especially because we have 1 diversion in play, we will be having 1 card destroyed. We could probably just discard Fanatic's hand. Her base power does play the top card of her deck, so she would have the card play on her turn. And K.N.Y.F.E has a damage dealer, a lot of things happening there, damage dealer, and overdo it. I think K.N.Y.F.'s cards are probably better than Fanatic's. I'm going to go ahead and have Fanatic discard her hand. And if worst comes to worst and it comes back into play, we can just, well, the good news is it might not come into play. But the good news is if it does come back into play, we could just have Fanatic discard her hand again, because now her hand's empty, so, you know, the cost of destroying it later is not as steep. But diversionary tactics, 1 shot. Reveal the top 3 cards of the villain deck. Put any revealed diversion cards into play. Discard the other revealed cards. Shuffle the villain trash into the villain deck. Play the top card of the villain deck. So that not diversionary tactics, Explosion in the lab is going to get shuffled back into the deck, which is good because it's not going to be in our trash. It's also bad because it could come back into play right away. Who knows? But the top card of the villain, the top 3 cards were not diversions. She shuffled her trash, and she played a clue. Isolated hero. Ongoing clue. When this card enters play, put it next to the hero character card with the most cards in play. That hero and that hero's cards cannot affect or be affected by any hero card or effect from another hero deck. So this is an interesting card because now it's sort of where it's misinformation against that hero and misinformation against the two other heroes is basically how this works. Thankfully, we could still, if we isolate Parse, she can still manipulate Misinformation's deck. But if we do isolate Parse, then we can't have Fanatic let Parse use a power. If we isolate K.N.Y.F.E, it's probably the better one, because she could play Incidental Contact and not hit Parse or Fanatic, which would be nice. I think that's the only thing in her hand and power that affects things. If we isolate Fanatic, the text that says one hero may use a power would mean nothing because we can't have another hero use a power. And if we isolate Parse, then Fanatic can't let Parse use a power. So we're going to isolate K.N.Y.F E, I think, is the wisest play. No diversion cards in play, so nothing was destroyed. And I think it's wise to put Gauge in play, because we can manipulate Misinformation's deck. And if we can look at the top card of the deck. It's not a big degree of deck manipulation, but we can look at the top card. If that card is not a clue, we could move it to the bottom of the deck. And then on Fanatic's turn, we can let Parse use Gauge again. And we could look at the top card, and if it's not a clue, or if it is a clue, we can leave it. If it's not a clue, we can put it on the bottom. So we have like 3 chances. Like the if one of the top 3 cards is a clue, it's excellent. If the top card is a clue, it's a slight waste, but we do draw a card. By the way, there are no non-hero targets in play, so if I play Impossible Shot, Parse deals 1 target 3 irreducible projectile damage. We know that Parse can't hit K.N.Y.F because K.N.Y.F is isolated, but she would have to hit either Parse or Fanatic. It's also going to be slightly terrible if Fanatic plays a card that deals damage. Like Brutal Censure, Fanatic deals 1 target 2 radiant damage means either Parse or Fanatic. It'll also be especially tragic if she plays Wrathful Retribution. Although she doesn't have any cards in her hand, so it wouldn't actually do anything. But anyway, because what are the other options? Impossible Shot, recompile, discard cards, draw cards, and updated intel, which whenever a villain card enters play, which would not affect the next card play, but the card play after that. But alright, Gauge was the best choice, and you can gauge Misinformation. The card revealed is Diplomatic Envoy, Diversion. At the end of the villain turn, this card deals the 1 hero target with the highest HP, 2 melee, and 2 energy damage each. So, it is a target, but it's not a clue, so we're going to put it on the bottom. And Parse draws Buffer Overflow, ongoing. When a villain card would enter play... Oh, I don't have to read this. It's not a villain card. But this is an excellent card, so I'm going to read it anyway. When a villain card would enter play, you may discard it instead and destroy this card. When this card is destroyed, draw a card and play the top card of the villain deck. It's an excellent card because, you know, if a villain card enters play that you don't like, you can just discard it and destroy this card. However, when this card is destroyed... the top card of the villain deck is played. So if you accidentally destroy this card, or an effect destroys this card, you end up playing the top card of the villain deck. That's the slight risk with this card, but it's a great card. We also draw Syntactic Analysis. Fanatic has no cards in her hand, so it's a little risky to play Resolute because the top card of her deck could be a damage dealer. But let's see. Top card is Divine Sacrifice, which I could hit someone just to redirect that damage to Fanatic, but that would be silly. We're not going to hit anyone. But we can let Parse use a power, and it automatically selected Parse because we can't select K.N.Y.F. She's isolated, and Fanatic has no other usable powers. We'll go ahead and select Parse to gauge once more. Filter Misinformation's deck. Insider Knowledge. Ongoing clue. Reduce damage dealt to Misinformation by 1. At the start of the villain turn, move a diversion card from the villain trash into play. This is excellent. We can leave this on the top of her deck. We'll get our second clue, and not only will she flip on her 3rd turn, but there will be no diversion cards in Misinformation's trash. Because she shuffled her deck, the card in her trash is the one-shot Diversionary Tactics. That's not a diversion. So Insider Knowledge is only providing damage reduction right now, which is excellent. It's the best clue we could have. So we're going to leave it on top. And Parse draws Recompile. A second one. And Fanatic draws Wrathful Retribution. Alright, so we have it. Now we need cards so we can play it. Alright, so... Incidental Contact. Knife would only hit herself for 1 energy damage. That's a little silly. Energy Burn. There's nothing to hit. For the greater good. She can draw a card, play a card, and use a power. Well, her power is a damage dealer. She can only hit herself. And Overdo It, we could put into play so she can play extra cards on her next turn, but that's a little silly. I think we're just going to skip. There's nothing to hit. There's nothing to do. We're going to skip. That lets us draw 2 cards, the first of which is Prototype Servo Gauntlet, which increases melee damage dealt by Knife by 1, and Battlefield Experience, which, when that card is destroyed, Knife can draw a card and play a card, so it's reactionary. Also has a power that deals damage and destroys this card, so when the card is destroyed, you can then draw a card and play a card, which is nice. Tomb of Anubis plays Swinging Blades, Trial. At the end of the environment turn, deal each target 3 melee damage. At the start of the environment turn, a hero target may take 1 melee damage. If they take damage this way, destroy this card. So, unfortunately, this only hits heroes right now. But its destruction is easy, especially with 3 heroes. And Misinformation is... Oh my god, Insider Knowledge! Not doing anything else. So, there are 2 clue cards in play. So at the start of the villain turn, since there are 2 or more clue cards in play, Misinformation will flip. That's the good news. So, I think... Let's see. I mean, with Gauge, we don't really need to put Buffer Overflow into play. Because, especially if Fanatic does her base power again, which, honestly, we don't need to as much. She could just skip, and draw more cards. Because we have Wrathful Retribution, we just need to get the cards to fund it. So if we can keep her from using powers for a bit, you know. We could also do Syntactic Analysis on Fanatic, so she could potentially draw 2 cards. Updated intel, whenever a villain card enters play, you may look at the bottom card of a deck, then either put it on the top or bottom of that deck. Well, we know the bottom cards of her deck, right? Because we gauged twice. Well, the very bottom card is actually a diversion, so we don't really want to put that bottom card into play, but we can, like, shuffle around other decks. We can control the Tomb of Anubis. We can look at the bottom card of Fanatic's deck and put it on top so that, like, you know, Fanatic could play it with her base power, maybe. I mean, I could just play Syntactic Analysis and let Fanatic draw 2 cards with it. What are the chances of her playing a card that destroys things? I'm not sure. At the end of the villain turn, destroy 1 hero, ongoing, or equipment card. At the start of the villain turn, each player may destroy any of their equipment cards. At the end of the villain turn, the player with most cards in play must destroy 1 of their cards. I don't know, we'll put Buffer Overflow in play. Because it gives me more control over Misinformation. And we'll go ahead and gauge Misinformation. Another Reality's Debt, a 1-shot. Each player must either discard their hand or destroy all their cards. Let's put it on the bottom. I don't like that card. Parse draws Critical Multiplier. It's an excellent card. And Data Mining, which is great. We could use this to destroy ongoing cards, or environment cards for that matter. Alright, we don't know what's on the top of Misinformation's deck now, so if I want Parse to do it, I'm going to have to use Resolute, but I think I'm just going to skip to fund the Wrathful Retribution later. Fanatic draws Divine Focus, which would have been put into play. which would have been annoying because there are no villain targets, and she would have to discard a card to do so, which would require discarding, you know, Wrathful Retribution, or this other Divine Focus. Alright. So, K.N.Y.F.E could skip again, but she does have a few cards she could use for setup. We could put the Prototype Servo Gauntlet in play and increase melee damage dealt by K.N.Y.F.E by 1. We could put Battlefield Experience in play, and then it's a card that could be destroyed if we have to destroy a card. Because when this card is destroyed, you may draw a card and play a card. Because if she's not using her base power right now, so like Prototype Servo Gauntlet wouldn't really serve much purpose right now. So we'll Battlefield Experience out, and I'm not going to use it. K.N.Y.F.E draws for the greater good. And now, a hero target may take 1 melee damage. If they take damage this way, destroy this card. Well, if I don't destroy it, then all the heroes will be dealt 3 damage each, which is way more than one target takes 1 damage. If I keep it in play, I could theoretically, like, use it to hit Misinformation and any other villain targets, but Fanatic probably wants to take the damage. Oops. Hold on a second, my Skype is open. There. Fanatic wants to take the damage, so we'll have Fanatic take the damage so that her Wrathful Retribution could do more damage. Spike Trap. Trial. At the end of the environment turn, a player may destroy one of their equipment cards to destroy this card. At the start of the environment turn, deal the target with the lowest HP 3 melee damage. So there are no equipment cards that we can destroy, so the Spike Trap remains. So, the hero target with the lowest HP is currently Fanatic. Fanatic wants to be able to use her Wrathful Retribution, so she wants to take damage. So I think we're going to leave that in play. And if we can get Misinformation low enough, Spike Trap can actually hit Misinformation. Alright. So, destroy a clue card. If this occurs, each hero target deals itself 2 sonic damage. Well, Isolated Hero isn't really doing much except preventing Fanatic from letting K.N.Y.F.E use a power. Or letting Parse let K.N.Y.F.E reveal the top 2 cards of her deck or stuff. I think Insider Knowledge is a little better because this allows us to hit Misinformation for more. So I'm gonna destroy that one. Oh my god, we're hitting ourselves. Fanatic's happy. Another isolated hero. This goes to the hero with the most cards in play, which is Parse. However, I could discard it. If I do, draw a card and play the top card of the villain deck. However, we do have... What was it? Data mining. If there are 2 or more villain ongoing cards in play, you may destroy one of them. It is a clue, which means that it will later be destroyed by Misinformation anyway, but if Misinformation destroys it, there's a penalty where the heroes hit themselves. I could discard it and then it's not in play, but then we lose the buffer overflow, and we won't know what the next card is on the villain deck. I think we'll leave it in play and we'll let Parse destroy it. And Misinformation hits Fanatic because she's the lowest. Just keep hitting the lowest one. Alright, Syntactic Analysis now can only affect Parse. Let's see. Even though we do have an isolated hero on Parse, it still sees 2 isolated hero cards. It just doesn't see the hero next to the second one. So we'll go ahead and data mine one of the isolated heroes. Question is, do I want to remove K.N.Y.F.E or Parse? I don't know that Fanatic is going to... I think Fanatic wants to draw 2 cards again, just so she has an option to play on her next turn, and still has 3 cards to discard for Wrathful Retribution. Or I could just not. I could just let Fanatic use a power. And then which hero would want to use a power? I mean, if I have K.N.Y.F E use a power, she could use Battlefield Experience to do 2 damage, destroy this card, draw a card, play a card, play the Prototype Servo Gauntlet, and then use Energy Burn, even though that won't have optimal energy damage dealing. Or she could overdo it. But, Well, I think I'm going to destroy K.N.Y.F.'s. And then we'll go ahead and gauge. I can use base power. This will do 3 projectile damage to Misinformation because Misinformation and Parse are nemesis, so they do +1 damage to each other. But they do +1 damage to each other, so Misinformation's retaliation will be for 2 instead of 1. So the question is, do I want to just try to wail on Misinformation? End the game faster? Yeah. I have a buffer overflow in case something bad comes out. Misinformation reacts. Parse draws between the lines. Alright, so I definitely don't want to Wrathful Retribute. This will do 11 damage, but she'll certainly take more damage by her next turn. We'll Resolute, deal damage, play the top card as a Chastise. But there were no... What does Chastise say? Played next to a non-hero target other than a character card. There was no such thing, so it was just discarded. K.N.Y.F.'s using a power, so she shall use Battlefield Experience. Misinformation reacts. Battlefield Experience destroyed. K.N.Y.F. draws Focusing Conduit Blade. Increase energy damage dealt by K.N.Y.F. by 1. I think I'll put Overdo It in play, and then at the start of her turn, she'll play Focusing Conduit Blade, and then on her play phase, she'll play Energy Burn, which will do even more damage to Misinformation because each of those energy damages will be increased by 1. And then she could use her base power, which also does energy damage. So all of those will do +1 damage to Misinformation. I could also just play Focusing Conduit Blade right now and then play Energy Burn on my next turn. That is certainly an option. But then I have a little bit more options on my second turn to play 2 cards, like Prototype Servo Gauntlet, and then maybe a card that deals melee and energy damage, so like Battlefield Experience. Unfortunately, it's getting destroyed. Let's go ahead and overdo it. Fanatic draws Consecrated Ground. Alright, so play a card. We're going to play the Focusing Conduit Blade. And now I shall Energy Burn Misinformation. And base power. K.N.Y.F. draws Energy Burn. Ooh, even more energy burns. Let's go ahead and take this damage. Spike Trap hits Fanatic. Akana. Mummy Trial. Whenever a villain target is destroyed, play the top card of the environment deck. Thankfully, there are no villain targets in play. So, do we want to destroy Focusing Conduit Blade? If we don't destroy it, Spike Trap stays in play. It could potentially hit Misinformation, but it could also hit Fanatic. If I destroy Focusing Conduit Blade, when this card is destroyed, you may play an equipment card. She has the Prototype Servo Gauntlet in play, or in hand. She could play that, but then Energy Burn doesn't do as much. For the Greater Good would be probably really good, actually, on her next turn. No, we're gonna skip this. Alright, Misinformation is destroying Isolated Hero. That's the only clue left in play, so we're hitting ourselves for 2 each. No more clues in play, no other villain cards in play. Misplaced Memo, ongoing clue. The non-hero target with the lowest HP is immune to damage. At the start of the villain turn, each hero target deals itself 2 psychic damage. So it's not that good. This will make Akana immune to damage until Misinformation gets to 7 or fewer health, at which point Misinformation becomes immune to damage. So that's not really good. Unless we can somehow get Fanatic to really destroy Misinformation. Misinformation will hit her for 2 psychic. If Parse uses Between the Lines on Fanatic, she'll deal herself 3 more damage, play the top card of her deck, which could hit Misinformation, which could potentially hit Fanatic some more. Currently, Wrathful Retribution is going to do 19 damage, so the hope is that we get Misinformation to... Let's see, well, she'll take 2 more damage from Misinformation this turn, which is 21. And then any other damage that... If we have Fanatic deal herself 3 damage, she'll be down to 24. Or this will do 24, and then... I guess we'll leave it in play. There's a chance. Do I want to discard Misplaced Memo? No, we'll leave it in play. There's a chance. Okay. I could also use Impossible Shot. Parse deals 1 target 3 irreducible projectile damage. That will do 4 to Misinformation. And then base power will do 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7. Misinformation will be down to 21. Wrathful Retribution does 21. Okay. This game's over. Parse draws quick calculation. We're gonna just keep wailing on Misinformation. We draw Targeting Arrow. And we end the game with Wrathful Retribution. GG. Mint. And that was a very short game. It illustrates the power of Parse, being able to manipulate Misinformation's deck, letting the clues come out faster, as well as having some preventative measures. We didn't actually utilize buffer overflow, but at least we had the option of doing it. We could have done it in that last round, but, you know, there's the uncertainty of what is the next card on Misinformation's deck. The card we really did not want to see was the one that said, reveal the top card of a deck. Every hero discards cards that share a keyword with that card. That would have frozen Fanatic. And it also illustrated Fanatic's Wrathful Retribution power. Fanatic didn't seem to do that much in this game, but she also did 21 damage and won the game at the end, so that kind of makes Fanatic the MVP. She also let Parse use a power at least once, and K.N.Y.F.E use a power at least once, and letting heroes use powers out of turn is always great. And K.N.Y.F was sort of like the hero that did some damage, which is necessary so that Fanatic could deal exactly the right amount of damage. If we didn't have that last clue come into play, I wouldn't have needed to worry so much about, like, you know, doing enough damage to Misinformation before she becomes the non-hero target with the lowest HP. And thankfully Akana came into play, because if Akana wasn't there, then Misinformation just would have been immune to damage thanks to that clue card. So thank you, Akana, for coming into play at just the right time. Alright, well, this is one of my shorter one-shot videos, but hopefully it was entertaining and informative. Please leave a comment if you feel like it, but that's it for tonight. Have a good night.